So today we'll be talking about ellipses on the ACT. So first off, it's really important to memorize the equation of an ellipse, which is as followed down here. X minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. And similar to the equation of a circle, the h and the k represent the center of the ellipse. But something different about the ellipse is that there's an a squared and a b squared on the bottoms. The a squared determines the horizontal stretch, and the b squared determines the vertical stretch. And if a squared is bigger than b squared, that means it is horizontally stretched, like right here. This would be if a squared was bigger than b squared, for it to be horizontally stretched. But for it to be vertically stretched, it would mean that b squared is bigger than a squared. And a squared represents the respective stretch on the x-axis, and b squared represents the respective stretch on the y-axis. Now we'll work through some examples to make sure that this concept gets solidified. Okay, let's move on to this example, which was taken from an ACT. So as we can see here, we just have to simply determine the equation of the ellipse. So let's start off here. We see that there's a horizontal stretch of 4 this way, meaning that it goes from 0 to 4, as we can see here. So if we go back to our equation, we remember that x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals 1. And then you put all of that over a squared, b squared. And so in this case, we see right here that in a squared, a is 4, right? Because we could see with our stretch down here that it goes from here to here, which is 4. So it would be 4, but we have to remember to square that. So it'd be 4 squared. And now let's look at our vertical stretch. For the vertical stretch, we could see that it goes from the center all the way up to 7, right? So this is our b value. This would be our b value. Oops. Okay. Now, if we look at our answer options, even before finding out the center, because the center is not really relevant in this question. It's more of, do you remember the equation of an ellipse? And so if we look at our answer options, the one that should stick out is C. And the reason that should stick out is because we see on the bottom, it has 16 and 49, which matches up with our equation where we said it was 4 squared and 7 squared. So this is a relatively easier ellipse question, but it's also testing your knowledge to make sure that you have the equation of the ellipse memorized. And that's very important to have that memorized in order to solve this question out. Okay, let's move on to question 55. It's asking, one of the following graphs in the standard xy coordinate plane is the graph of the equation x squared over 4 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. Which one is it? So first off, I would recommend writing down the equation of the ellipse, which again, it's very important to have memorized. So x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. And now we simply just have to match up the parts of the equation. So if we go right here, we see that it's going to be a vertically stretched ellipse already off the bat. And the reason we could see that is because we could go back to our idea of that the value of b squared is bigger than the value of a squared, right? So b squared is bigger than a squared. So we know it's going to be a vertically stretched ellipse as is. Now it's important to determine which answer choice is it. And so we could see that in this case, a squared, if we go back to our very original value, a squared equals 4 and b squared equals 9. And the reason we could see that is we could just simply cross-check our equation of the ellipse, which we have right here, onto the original equation. And we see that if we go down to the a squared value right here, it matches up with this value of 4. Similarly, the b squared value down here matches up with the value of 9. Okay, so if we solve that out, we could see that using some simple algebra that A equals 2, B equals 3. Now simply all we have to do is just go on to our answer choices and see which one satisfies that method. So we know that's going to be vertically stretched anyway, so we can automatically eliminate A, D, and C. So now it's simply between B and E, which one satisfies, where it goes A equals 2 and B equals 3. So if we look right here, it seems like B is out of the answer choices as well, simply because we could see that the vertical stretch is way more than 3. It's almost near 7 and 8, right? Because it's going past this value of 6. And therefore, using the process of elimination, we could simply land on E. And it also makes sense. If you could see the A value, this is pretty close to 2. And the B value, or the vertical stretch right here, is pretty close to 3. So here we could just simply use process of elimination by first realizing, okay, it's going to be a vertically stretched ellipse because B squared is bigger than A squared, as seen right here. So we were able to cross out these 3 answer choices. And when comparing the vertically stretched, we see that B is way more vertically stretched and horizontally stretched compared to A. B's vertical stretch is almost 7 or 8 as depicted here. And so we were able to cross out B and land on E as our final answer choice.